Ready? Good evening. Thank you for coming down. We'll get started with the school budget and warning shortly. I first pledge allegiance to the flag. If you remove your caps and rise, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This is being recorded, incidentally, on some sort of film over here or Zoom, so people who are not present can see this. That, of course, requires that there be clarity in what is said. So Mike will be bringing the microphone around to each of you to speak, and you'll have to identify yourselves. Anybody making a motion has to be recorded here by our town clerk, Teresa. The motions tonight will be addressed to the moderator. In order for any article to be discussed, you may recall that it first has to be moved to the floor and then seconded before discussion actually occurs. I know some of the names in here, although I've been moderator in this town for almost half a century, so I probably forgot most of your names by then. So I do apologize if I don't recall your name. Articles may, of course, once discussed, can be amended one time with a vote of 50% of the body. My role is to explain procedural questions only. The school board here tonight, Judy Castongi is the chair. Gail Cornelius is present, Mariah Gaborio, Jocelyn Gervais, and Bruce. Bruce here still? I don't see Bruce. Oh, Ashley Keenan must have replaced Ashley? Oh, okay. So those are the people that will make an effort to answer your questions. Again, the voter should stand up, give their respective name, and speak in a loud voice since they are being recorded. Voter will be recognized the second time only once somebody else has been given an opportunity to speak. Non-voters are entitled to watch these proceedings and can speak only with the permission of the entire body. So if any non-voters decide they want to speak, they'll need to see me separately. Normally we use an aye and no thing or a show of hands. As you well know, if you wish, 7 voters can request that a paper ballot occur. This, of course, is very time consuming, so we try to avoid that on menial questions. Other than that, we'll be moving forward with the warning. We will ask that people address each other as we do at home in a decent manner, and that things be kept clear so that you can all understand what we're voting for. The warning is required to be read for tomorrow. Item 2 is to elect a moderator for the ensuing year. Item 3 is to elect 2 school board directors, each for a 2-year term. Item 4, to elect a school board director for a 3-year term. Item 5, to elect a union school district director, also for a 3-year term. Those items 2, 3, 4, and 5 will be voted upon by written Australian ballot tomorrow here between the hours of 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. Other than that, item 6, I'll move on the item. 6, shall the voters of the school district approve the school board to expend $3,231,162, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for this ensuing fiscal year. The Brighton School District estimates that the proposed budget, if approved by the voters, would result in a per pupil spending of $11,988, which is 6.44% higher than the pupil education spending for the current year. Do I have anyone move that item to the floor for discussion? Moved by Mark Valencourt, seconded by Jim Webb back there, seconded. All right, discussion on item 6. Mr. Valencourt.
Good evening, school board, and good evening, everybody else here in the hall. Last year's budget was 2.9 million, and believe it or not, that was approved in 16 minutes. No one said anything. So I don't think that this is going to go 16 minutes this evening. I think it's going to go a little longer because I have some questions. Let's go to line item 14 of the budget.
And who's going to answer these questions? Go ahead, Mark.
Line item 14 of the budget.
And we're referring to pages.
No, that's item number.
Yeah, but the budget's 15 to 24. What's the item number?
Number 14, not page 14, line item 14.
Line item 14 on page 15.
So we got a grant for $118,619 for mitigation of the PCBs in the school.
That's correct.
And I take it that that was for the whole school.
That, for the whole school?
Yes,
For the Brighton Elementary School,
yes.
yes.
Okay. So all of that money was used just for that and nothing else.
That money was used, I believe, for the modular unit that we put in. So that
Well, how much of that went to the modular unit?
the entire thing went to put in the modular unit for the school, because our preschool was not allowed to be in the school because of the state law for PCBs, so we had to put in
So
the
that's
modular.
not really for the mitigation of the PCBs out of the school itself. That was for the new modular school.
That went into the modular unit, that went into installing putting a pad in the modular unit, installing everything. That was the cost of putting in that modular unit.
Okay, so let's go now to item 274. Engineering contracted for the PCBs of $73,582. Can you give me an idea of what you mean by that?
Line 274.
274.
Yep. 73,582.
That was also paid for by the state. All
That came out of the mitigation grant?
all funds for the PCB mitigation came from the state, yes.
Okay, so that's included in,
I believe so, yes, it was included in, yes, that was included in the grant. And the school did not pay, the town or the school did not pay any funds for PCB mitigation out of our own.
but you're calling
budget.
the engineering firm for the new building, that
For the
money was
PC.
also used.
That money, yes, that money was.
So initially then, what was the amount that was spent for getting the PCBs out of the building? Out of the building? It's part of, it's
The
part
total
of,
amount, I would have to add it all up, but it was the contractor, and whatever the grant was for was spent to get the PCBs. That grant went to pay for the modular unit, pay for the installation of the modular unit, pay for the engineer. Everything that was required to mitigate PCBs in the building was paid for through that grant.
So in other words, Judy, to be clear, the 75 and 119 all PCB funds.
Yeah.
That answer your question, Mark?
yeah, I wish it would have been broken down to see what the exact cost of the engineering firm was versus what the engineer was not involved in the mitigation of the removal of the PCBs.
It's listed at 73,582.
He was only used for the new building, is what you're saying?
The engineer was used to do the entire thing, to come into the building, to look at what we needed, to see how to mitigate the PCBs,
So
to
that was
make
all,
recommendations.
so that was all thrown into one
Yeah,
package?
yeah,
And-
all mitigation of the PCB.
Right.
Yes,
And
the
I-
engineer did all of the initial work to do
I
the
just-
engineering firm did the research and what needed
No,
to
no,
be done.
I understand that, but I just find that, and monies that were spent for the new building should have been separate, so that we as the taxpayers know how that money is being spent. And that's not what you did. You lumped it all together with everything else, and I don't think that's fair for the taxpayer. We need to know exactly what was spent over there.
That's true, but none of that money came out of the taxpayer money. That was all money that came from a grant from the state. So
But
that
this-
was not
but
money
I'm-
that
I'm-
we as the
I'm-
school were, that we as the school, that was not money that we as the school that came out of the taxpayer money. That was money.
Okay,
for-
so let's go to item 277. And that was renting of the Catholic Hall, I take it, for the students?
36,808.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Well, I'm a little confused there because wasn't the rental $700 a month for that?
We all, the rental,
What was the monthly rent of the Catholic Hall?
the Catholic did not rent, the Catholic
didn't
Church
charge.
didn't charge.
Huh?
The Catholic Church did not charge the school to use the hall.
For any of that?
No,
So you use that?
did they?
So what was the rental? What was the monthly rental?
I don't know what the actual renter was, but we have our Debbie Brunel, who is our accountant here to answer questions. Would it be okay if she came forward?
Debbie,
and
can you
answered?
answer that question? Mark is questioning the $37,000 rent for something. What was rented for 37 grand? Is the question.
The modular unit was rented for 37. Yeah, oh, okay.
Just
Your name, please?
Debbie Brunel, and excuse me, I'm not a registered voter in Brighton.
That's
I'm
all right. We'll
actually from
take your answer.
Bramington.
You're the accountant that worked on this budget?
Yes, and I'm sorry it's not broken out clearly. If you would like next year, because this is just what was actually spent for FY '24. That first line you asked about is actually the revenue that was received, and all of the expenditure lines throughout the budget where you see PCB costs will offset that revenue. As far as that rental line, most of it was for the preschool being at the Catholic Church, and I'm trying to log into the system right now. I believe it was $7 or $7.50 a month. There was also the rental of a unit to store some items or move some items, if I remember correctly. Sorry, I oversee multiple schools. So remembering the details from over a year ago, I've got to look in the system to get exact numbers.
So if you take let's just round it off basically to $700 a month. And let's say we rented it for 12 months, which I'm sure we didn't. So that's all, at that 12 months, that's $8,700. Now, where did the rest of the money go? Where's the rest of the money for that 36,000? Where did it go?
Is that also for the rental on the modular unit? The modular that we don't own, the modular unit is.
No,
not
no, no, the
being owned.
modular has no rental.
Yeah, we're renting the modular unit.
Yep. So what was the rental?
The modular unit is being rented too. I'm not sure what that is a month, but the modular unit is rented. We can put, if we decide we don't want the modular unit, after the state is done paying for it in a year, we can decide to send it back. We do not own the modular unit. What the state paid for, what the school actually is there is a concrete slab. They paid for
Yeah,
electricity.
but you're
to
not
go-
answering my question to the rental.
We rented the modular unit, and I'm not sure what the breakdown is between what we paid for the rental of the modular and what we paid for the rental of the church, but that's all in that rental
So I'm not
number.
really satisfied with that answer because you're not telling us how the money is being spent.
The money is being spent to rent the modular unit. The exact breakdown of how much went to the church.
She actually has an answer for you.
Sorry, it took a minute for my system to boot up. But yes, that was a good observation. The rental for the preschool location, the church, that was $750 a month, and that was paid from August through June. And then $28,557.50 was the initial payment for the rental of the modular from Box Modular. That includes the setup and installation and the first month's rent. So that's what was actually paid in FY '24. You'll notice next year when we come, you're going to see a lot larger expense in there because it's going to be the rental of the modular, but there will be an offsetting revenue for all of that, as there is with this one.
Okay,
And if it's
Uh,
something the town would like, I can do up a separate page that's strictly for the PCB related costs and revenues, like you see in your report for food service
No,
or
it's just that
your other funds.
when you
just
go
because
over
it is
this budget, it's
interesting.
very confusing. And it's
Yeah.
not really clear as to how this money is being spent.
It
It's
is
almost
difficult.
like we're trying to shuffle stuff around so it doesn't show the actual cost.
It actually comes down to the state mandated uniform chart of accounts that we are required to pay our expenses by,
Now,
build
that's a
our
good answer,
revenues
but
by.
I don't believe that. Okay. The next thing that I have here is our line item 292. Again, contract services for PCB related, 4,000. Was that to finally get the last room to pass the PCB test?
They are.
So that included things like, let me see, the investigation of the PCBs. There was a contract to come in and oversee the project, the advertising, water and sewer tie-in for the modular. And then some carpet work that was done, an inspection of systems to make sure everything was clear of PCB.
So basically, I would just like to reiterate that all PCB related expenses are coming out of a grant from a state mandated grant. It is not money that the
No,
school
I
has charged the
understand that,
taxpayers.
but it's kind of
we
vague.
Did not take any money and put it somewhere
No, no,
else.
I'm
It's
not
all
saying
going.
that. So on item 293, contract services again for $12,259, was that also related to that?
Item 293, Mark,
Item 293.
contract services. Well, it says PCB, 4,000.
Yes, it says that above it.
Well, is that what you're referring to?
Well, I don't know what it is. It just says contract services of $12,459.
Okay, that's not the PCB stuff. No, it's-
I don't know.
No, that one's not PCB related. I tried to put PCB related in the descriptor to try to alleviate some of the confusion, but that includes your lawn mowing and your snow removal and the inspection of your, trying to think, I don't know off the top of my head what Brighton has, outdoor basketball courts. We have to have an inspector come in and check those each year. Then there was some other landscaping and spring cleanup, but it's all grounds related contract and service.
So in next year's budget, I know we're talking about this year's, but in next year's budget, we're going to have to cough up $85,000, correct, to keep that building?
If the board decides to keep the modular beyond the 1-year lease, then then Brighton taxpayers would have to pay for that. I believe it's something the board is discussing at an upcoming board meeting on whether or not to keep it.
Yep.
But they can speak more into that.
We have not made that decision yet. That's on our agenda
Yep.
to make that decision because we want to see now that the PCBs are more regulated in the building, we may make a decision to send the modular back if we
Yep.
don't need it anymore.
Okay, no,
So we
that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, so we have yet to make that decision. Right now, it's being paid for by the
Yeah.
state and we're using it. But as soon as the lease is up,
Because
we
it
will
would,
make that
in my
decision.
opinion, it would be a crying shame if we did spend that money next year. And then the state, with what they're doing with rezoning all the districts and doing, who knows, you might lose your 7th and 8th grade to Newport.
Right.
So then you have no need for that building. So I would hope that the board contacts the state before this payment is due and ask them to delay payment to see how this is all going to wash out for this $85,000
Well, we have to
because
pay for it while we're using it, but as soon as we don't, as soon as the lease, yeah, we are definitely gonna talk about whether or
Right.
not we still need to have that unit.
because it'd be a shame to spend that money and find out we don't need it.
Yeah,
That's just my opinion.
thank you.
I guess that's all. Oh, I do have, and it may sound a little stupid. We have I'm rounding figures off right now, $3.2 million budget. How many students do we have in the school?
I believe about 120 right
Okay.
now.
So that, in my head right now, that kind of comes out. I know what you say, it's 11,900 and some odd dollars per student, but that's not how I look at it. Because you get money from the state, which offsets this cost. Last year, we got $2 million. I don't know what we're going to get this year. But the way I look at it as a business person, I'm looking at this, that we're spending $32,000, well, less than that, maybe $29,000 per student to put through our school. If you take the 3.2 million and divide it by 120, and I think this is outrageous. Even though we're being subsidized from the state, that's still a cost per student that's way out of line. And I don't understand it. Pre-K, $165,000 for budget for pre-K. And you're looking at how many students in pre-K?
Oh, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but we still, no matter how many students, we still need a teacher. We need.
I realize
we
that,
need
but I'm just saying,
educators,
it's a
we need
mandate that's
supplies.
costing us a lot of money. A lot of money.
Education is expensive.
Yeah. So
You're
it just
right.
things
To
that I'm.
educate our students in the way that
Yeah.
they need to be educated, I feel, is an
Yeah.
expensive.
So
it's
these are
not-
just things in the budget that I was a little concerned about because it wasn't clarified that much. So, but I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, item 6 is on the floor. Any other comments, questions? Yes, Greg Manning.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, board. I'm Greg Manning. I have a number of questions here, and it's probably because of my ignorance, the number of questions I have, but I understand, a good portion of the increase in costs was, I think it was $45,000 just in health insurance alone under the direct instruction. So healthcare is costing us, an arm and a leg. But a question, line item 27, salary elementary teachers, budgeted was 575.
Greg, are you referring to?
I'm sorry,
So people,
27, page 15.
line 27, page 15.
Yeah, salary elementary teachers budgeted 575,000, expended an additional 21,000 over that. And how did that happen when we didn't have a math teacher?
I am going to imagine that, you can probably answer this for me, but some teachers, when you get a step up in salary, if a teacher got a master's degree, we are also paying we don't have a certified math teacher right now, but we are paying right now for a teacher. We have
Okay.
people that are taking that position.
Okay.
We don't have a permanent teacher, but we're paying for that position to be filled. And I imagine I think the increase is probably due to people getting a master's degree and stepping up
Okay.
in the.
Item 41, page 16, budgeted 30,000, expended 16,000, and you're asking for 31,000 more dollars.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what line.
I'm sorry, 41, tuition elementary. Budgeted was 30,000, expended 16,463, and you're asking for an additional, you're asking for 31,000. So how is that? You spent 16,000 and you're asking for 31.
I think that's something that Debbie can speak to, if you would.
Debbie, can you answer that question? The obvious question is, what is tuition for? Is that for sending people to go study somewhere?
Okay, this one is the staff tuition. It's a benefit that all teachers receive. They're entitled to be able to take classes every year. Some choose to, some choose not to. It's best practice to budget as if everyone was going to use the full allotted amount. Some years they don't, but especially with a younger staff, and I know you have quite a few newer teachers, it's best to really plan and have that money in the budget because more of those teachers are working towards a higher license and continuing to take classes, and it's best to budget that money. That way, if they want to use it, it's there.
Line 49, contracted services from North Country School Union, is that what?
North Country
NSU?
Supervisory Union.
Supervisory Union, okay. What is that?
I think that probably includes, and correct me if I'm wrong, speech and language, or art.
Mean an art teacher?
So our art teacher here in Brighton is $48,000 that we pay the union? Okay. So he's now an employee of Brighton Elementary? So why do we have, oh, okay, for 26, it's 0. All right, thank you.
Yes.
Line 53, supplies and uniforms. $3,000. This is not sports related, is it?
Yes. It's for your school-sponsored athletic teams.
Okay, and how is that related to direct instruction? Which
It's
is the
actually like
category.
a subcategory under it because it is for the direct service of the students. You'll notice next year it is broken out into a separate group of extracurricular,
Okay,
but it does kind of flow together in the current format.
okay. Line item 59, computer software. Budget 500, expended 4,200, and you're asking for an 4,500. What's left to purchase?
Every year, there are subscriptions that need to be renewed. Everything's digital now. Technology is just blowing up. And so the supervisory union has a tech department that oversees all of this and has programs that have been chosen throughout the SU that schools need to contribute to. A lot of them are funded through the supervisory union assessments, but there are some additional ones that do flow back to the schools. There's certain programs they have to have for student laptops. There's certain programs they have to have for student learning. So.
Okay. Under pre-K, line 79, preschool student tuition, 37,000, is that?
That's universal preschool. All
Okay.
students or all preschoolers are entitled to be able to go to a state-approved preschool program, whether it is at your school or not. And if it is an approved program and they have filled out the proper paperwork, the school is on the hook for the allotted amount for the year, which is just under $4,000 a student.
Per student.
Yes,
So this is a unfunded mandate.
yes,
Okay,
one of many.
okay. Special education assessment, line 114, page 18. $228,814.
The state required us to consolidate our special education teachers to the supervisory union. And so then the supervisory union assesses that out to schools. It makes it a softer blow on individual schools. If you end up with students moving into town that require additional services, you're not getting hit with that full cost. It's being added into an assessment across the whole supervisory union. But it's all based on special educators, and there are other services in that. And I know someone else sitting here knows a lot more about those different services if you'd like more detail on what those
So
are.
another unfunded mandate that the state, our portion, Brighton Elementary, our taxpayers portion statewide, but our portion is 228,000. So now we have 115 school unions in the state. You take 228 times that. That's an exorbitant amount, and it's really not for discussion here. We can't control what it is that the state is charging. Well, not in this meeting anyways. Okay. So the total special programs, $550,000. That's 14% of this budget. In fact, it's over 14% of this budget. But then that is a fee that the state is charging us.
No, this is for federally mandated requirements for students that have been identified as requiring additional services. So your support staff, your paraeducators, one-on-one, small group and such are paid at Brighton. So those are the salaries and benefits that you see in this section. And then the assessment is paid to the supervisory union, who employs all of the certified staff, behavior staff and whatnot that are deployed to all the schools in the supervisory union.
Okay. Line 117, EEE. What is it?
That is a preschool, basically a preschool special services assessment to the supervisory union based on identified preschool students.
So what does EEE stand for?
Early educational something, early essential education.
Okay. And would this best be served under pre-K? And it's under total special I'm sorry, its own category, EEE. Why would this not be under pre-K?
The state uniform chart of accounts requires us to report it separately.
Interesting.
It is a very interesting uniform chart of accounts. I fight with it daily, honestly. If I had a choice, I wouldn't use it, but we don't have a choice.
Okay. Improvement of instruction.
What line item are you on?
I'm sorry, 182, page 20, improvement of instruction. I'm assuming it says a teacher, FICA and supplies totaling of 5883. I know that's a small amount, but what is improvement of instruction?
This is often used to pay for your current staff when they are doing additional services such as specific nights, literacy nights, or math nights, or events like that where they receive an hourly differential for that.
Okay. Library contracted services for NCSU, $52,000.
That's salary and benefits.
I'm
for-
sorry, line item 189.
Yep, that is because your librarian is employed by the North Country Supervisory Union and works 50% time at Brighton, 50% time at Coventry. And this includes salary and all applicable benefits
So
for her.
the librarian is a contracted person.
Yes,
Okay. Office of Superintendent. 224, page 224. Line item 224, page 21. Office of Superintendent, our assessment, $128,000.
yes. That
Is his
for-
last name Trump?
Oh, no, this is not for the superintendent. This is for the central office. You've got the superintendent, administrative assistants, the assistant superintendent, a portion of the bookkeeping for all the schools, a portion of curriculum and assessment used throughout the supervisory union.
Okay.
It covers many, many different factors. And we actually had done up a comparison to show what the total cost was compared to what is assessed out to schools. And what was the difference?
It was 22.8.
Yeah, 22.8 million total cost for the central office and granting and whatnot. And about 8 million is what is assessed out to the schools between the different assessments that you see in your budget.
Okay. Line 303, page 23, transportation contracted service, again in North Country. 303.
303.
Okay, $55,000. Is that our cost for the buses?
Yes.
busing the students?
Yep, and the state required that transportation be consolidated to the supervisory union. All they do is pay your bill to Butlers and then bill you for that exact bill.
Okay. So I misread this because I did my math based on the 2025 budget. But by my math, the estimated 2026 student population is 120.
I'm not sure the exact number.
Well, it's right here in the book.
Oh.
It says 120 as
Yeah.
estimated
Oh,
for 25,
estimate, yeah,
26.
yes, estimated,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's $24,850 per student. Okay. And that's just for K through 8 here in this town. Okay. 2024 public spending K through 12 for the entire state of Vermont was $21,000 per student. Statewide, K through 12, that was the average cost. We're paying $24,000. Vermont is number 4 in the nation in education costs. Pre-K through 12. Okay. Topped by New York, $24,881. We are, Vermont, this town, $24,850. So the governor put out a mandate to reduce our school budgets. We increased our school budget by $250,000 or 9%. And I don't see how we are saving any money. Okay,
Thank you, Greg.
thank you.
All right, any questions, comments on the item on the floor? Now is the time to discuss. Yes, Kathy Nelson, yeah.
The questions that have been asked are very revealing. Thank you, gentlemen, for asking them. It's pretty clear the school's ripping this town off. Okay, it's pretty clear. And I think that the school budget should be cut in half. And I hope the people in this room know it. It's not funny. If you want funny, go to Saturday Night Live.
All right, guys,
You're
come
a
on.
cod.
Make like you're at home, you know.
Can I respond to that, please?
No,
I forgot to mention, grant money from the state comes from all the taxpayers.
You are
Okay.
correct about that. I'd just like to respond that, Vermont does have, but we also, are ranked one of the top 10 in educating our students too. It costs a lot to educate students at this day and age and to have them be prepared and be citizens of the world. And I just need to say that. And I personally don't think it's a ripoff. I think every cent that we spend on our students and their education, they are our future and they're worth it. And yes, we do have high costs. We also have a high turnout rate. We have high test scores. We are educating our students well, and we're turning out students who are going to be prepared for the world, I hope. And to me, the cost is worth it. And that's all I would like to say in response to that.
Item 6 is on the floor here. Any questions, comments? Now is the time to speak up on the budget. Any opinions that you have or questions? Otherwise, we'll. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mercy Manning, and I totally agree with you. Our children are our future. I don't believe they're ripping us off. They've been very open about explaining everything and being patient, explaining everything that's in there. I agree next year, maybe make it more obvious so we don't have all these questions, but our children are our future. We're not a rich town, but we're rich in our children, and we need to invest in our children. Thanks.
Are we ready to call the question? All right. Item 6, shall the voters of the school district approve the school budget to expend $3,231,162,000 to run the school for the year. The budget being set forth, ending on page 24. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? We're going to have a show of hands. All those in favor, raise your hand, please. Okay, keep them up. We got to count them. Forty-five, sound good? All those opposed, raise your hand and keep them up, please. Forty-five to 29, item 6 carries by voice vote. Item 7, shall the voters of the school district authorize the school board to transfer $162,258 of the 2023-24 school year, which has been unallocated, unaudited, should it be sent over to the capital improvement fund? Move that question to the floor. Mr. Valencourt, Mr. Gillette, second. For discussion purposes, thank you, Craig. Discussion on item 7, Mark Valencourt.
I'm looking for the school board this year to do the right thing to help out the taxpayers of this town. Last year, we had $101,000 that was moved from the same exact thing to the capital improvement fund. I'm a little confused in the budget because that $101,300 is shown on 2 different pages. Page 26 under fund transfers, and then page 28 where it comes under as capital improvements, which is what it was supposed to be for. So I'm just concerned that, this money that we are putting away for this capital improvement fund is used only for capital improvements and nothing else.
Bruce, new
No,
boiler.
new boiler, all that, that's what that money should be used for. And I just want to make sure that that is. So this year, the monies that you want to allocate on unaudited and whatever it says underneath, I'd like the board to make an effort here to help out the town. I'd like to see $60-something thousand, which was the $62,258 to go to capital improvement. I'd like to see $100,000 to go to pay down this $249,000 increase.
Say that to pay down the 249.
The increase of our budget.
Oh, okay.
So next year, that money would be used, that $100,000 to pay down, to help pay down the budget. Because this town right now, we're in hard times here. Most people here, I personally myself got a $1,300 increase in my tax bill this year. And I see again, this coming year with the new assessment, that it may be at that amount again. And I don't think a lot of people in this town could afford this. And I think we should work hard to keep our school, because what the state is saying throughout for the town, our students are going to decrease because people aren't having the kids that we used to have. And people who have a lot of kids won't be able to afford to live here. This is going to be a bedroom community. This is what's going to happen here. And down the road, you're going to see this school go away. it's going to be swallowed up and the kids will have to go to Charleston or go someplace else. I see this coming for this town. And there's no doubt it's going to happen within the next 10, 15 years. We're going to lose this school. And who's going to want to move here with a family that doesn't have a school? I mean, we're looking at some serious things coming up in this town. We got a lot of problems coming up in this town. Water, sewer, all this stuff is going to hit us. And a lot of these people here in town can't afford this. So I'm hoping and praying that you as a school board would take this recommendation that I'm saying, that $100,000 goes down to help pay for next year's budget. And I think that would be a good response on your part to help out these taxpayers. I mean, and I'm hoping that you as a school board can look into your budgets coming up in the future and do your best to help out the town, because what's going to happen to this town is not funny. And that's all I have to say. And I just hope that you take my recommendation. If I have to bring that up on the floor later as an amendment to what you had here on item 7.
With all due respect, Mark, now is the time to do it.
Oh, okay. So I'd like to bring a motion on the floor to split this $162,258 of $100,000 goes down. And you've done this before in your budgets. In years past, you've done this. So $100,000 goes to bring down the budget, and $62,258 goes to capital improvement.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to amend item 7 as stated by Mr. Valencourt. Presumably that would alter your budget by $100,000 if it passes. An amendment like that requires a second. We have a second on that, seconded by Mr. Manning. And we can now have discussion. Amendments are to be carried by 50% of the voters. So we'll have discussion on that item before we take the vote. Anybody else want to comment on the motion to amend? Yes, Joel.
How is this an amendment?
Because he just made it.
It's just a motion to do something with money. It's not an
Sounded
amendment.
like an amendment to me, Joel.
Right, but the budget's already been passed.
That's all right. He can amend the motion. He can amend item 7. Any voter can
doesn't-
move to amend.
It doesn't need amendment, it stands on its own. Why is it amending anything? It's just a motion to do something with the capital fund.
I disagree. I mean, he's making a motion to allocate 100,000 to the budget and the other 62 to the capital fund.
That's different. That's fine, but it's not an amendment. And I don't know how you're going to change a budget that's already passed.
Yeah,
Because $101,000 was in this budget this year.
item 7 stands on its own, Joel.
Okay, I just thought I'd raise the issue.
Anybody else want to speak on that issue? Craig,
Hold on, Craig.
Craig, hold up here. We gotta have the mic.
Isn't he asking the school board to do that, not the voters? We have a beautiful school board. They're the ones making the decisions. Why aren't we letting them decide? That's what he just asked them, if he could see it in their heart to do that.
And I guess I would, and we do every year strive to, as taxpayers ourselves, try to, save the taxpayers money, but we are facing a furnace that is not ever been replaced since the school's been built in 19, what was ever it was, is 19, and have just gotten a report about the furnace and are facing perhaps having to replace our whole heating system. So we're going to be looking at that and seeing what the cost of that might be, but.
So my question, seeing that you brought up the boiler thing, is the state going to mandate to you that you can't change your fossil fuel furnace with another one? Because as of the end of 2025, you cannot replace your fossil fuel furnaces in this state. And I'm not making this up. Call Fred's Energy and see what they're going to tell you. Well, that's not what they told me, because I stopped in their office and asked them. It's a mandate by the state.
So can
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just wondering shouldn't you as a board be looking into what the costs are going to be and
We-
start budgeting for that line
We have
item?
been starting to look at that, and we also have on page 28 of the budget, if you have it right there, the tax stabilization. We have 129,000 in that fund. We, could look maybe instead of at the capital funds, since we might have, using
You
some
may
of
have to
that.
use some of that money along with this.
No, to use that to go back into our budget to help the budget instead of the capital funds, to keep those capital funds aside in case we have to spend for a boiler, but looking
But
at
you
that
already
tax
have-
stabilization fund to go back into mitigating the budget.
But how much money's in the budget do you have?
129, we're on page 28 of the budget.
Yep.
$129,000.
And you don't think that that's going to be enough?
That tax stabilization fund, that's the tax stabilization fund is $129,000. The 160 for the boiler, I doubt it.
It's not just the boiler, it's the whole system, the air system. The person that works on. Nobody can hear you.
It's an air system, and the person that used to work on the air system retired, and nobody can fix it. I worked on it for a long time. I finally got it running. So it's definitely an issue.
Yeah.
It's not just the heating system itself, it's everything in the building.
Okay.
We're
But
getting,
I did have a motion that
Yeah.
I wanted to use.
Mark, we're getting a little far afield here. Procedure is my job. What we have on the floor is a motion to amend item 7, stated clearly, 100,000 to reduce the budget and 62,258 to go into the capital fund. One of the reasons why Mr. Cope spoke up is one of the things we try to avoid at these town meetings is having everyone amend the 37 lines that Mr. Manning talked about. It makes it very difficult to run a town or a school if everybody is going to go through 60 line items at a town meeting to try to amend. This, however, is an appropriate amendment, and anybody that wants to speak to that can do so now. Otherwise, we'll call for the vote, 50% being required to the amendment. If the amendment fails, then we're back at item 7 as written. Are we clear? All those in favor?
Oh,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to reiterate again, that we are looking at that, but replacing the heating system is going to be a lot of money, and we'd like to keep it in the capital fund, but we would, like to look at that other line item and use those, the fund balance of $129,000 and use that money to go back in to mitigate the taxes.
All right, clear on the amendment? If you vote yes, that means the amendment passes. If you vote no, the amendment fails. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. Oops, show of hands again. Raise your hand, please, if you want the amendment to pass, which is to use 100,000 to reduce the budget. Thirty-three ayes. The noes, raise your hand, please. It's 33. Did you get these guys?
Yep.
So we got 35 opposed to it and 33 approve the amendment. So the amendment fails. And we're back on item 7, although what you spoke to the board about certainly will carry some weight, I hope. Item 7, shall the school district transfer 162,258 of the 2023-4 school year over to the capital improvement fund? All those signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Okay, item 7 is carried. Item 8. This one should be easy. This one says, shall the elementary school board provide notice of the availability of this annual report by publishing it in the newspaper of record, by posting an appropriate notice in the school in town office, as well as the school website at least 30 days before the annual meeting, rather than mailing it to the US Postal Service at a couple of bucks a book, I would think. Stamps are now 79 cents. And have it distributed as these were, the town report was, to the voters in accord with 16 Vermont statutes annotated 563, section 1J. All those in favor? Oh, somebody got to move it first. Moved by Craig Gillette, seconded. Mr. Valencourt, all those in favor or discussion, I guess. Anybody want to discuss 8? Seeing nothing. Oh, yes. Yeah, please.
If we were to amend that, I would like to think we would think of our disabled that can't get out, that they would still be on a mail list to receive them.
It's a good point. Those who are invalid. Thank you. Excellent point. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Those opposed. Item 8 carries. Item 9, to transact any other business, and seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. Moved by Valencourt, seconded by Gillette. We'll start right in on the town meeting unless everybody wants to go out and have a smoke or something.